Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to kind of the unofficial start of the new summer movie season. It's kind of weird to see a big movie like Oblivion, which is our film reviewed for the day, to be released in late April. I guess they're trying to really expand upon that time period. It has been something for a while now. I think with people or with studios realizing they had that March bump that they seem to be getting, where you get a few movies pumped out there that could do well but couldn't handle in the summer. And I guess now they're trying to pump stuff into April because Oblivion it's certainly a big production movie. I guess they're trying to get in a week or two early before the big May rush. And it's a really good movie. It's a really good science fiction tale, and it's not a remake. It's not an adaptation from something that's been out there for a while. It's refreshing to see. It's got a great visual style. The acting's it's pretty good. I think the trailer ruined a little bit more than I would wish, or it really, I think, hurt the experience. If you haven't seen the trailer, which would be kind of weird if you're going to go watch a review for this and you haven't even seen the trailer yet. I don't know, maybe you're watching this like 5 years after the recording date, and so you just are hearing stuff. If you haven't, right there, just go see this movie. Because I think that would be the better experience. Don't get a review first, don't watch the trailer first, go see the movie. Because the trailer makes it quite clear that there's going to be a twist. Everything we just told you is going to be a lie, and therefore you're waiting to see it come. You're waiting for the twist and the lies and the layers of manipulation. There's something not right being peeled back. You're now looking for that, and so when it comes, it's not so much a anymore. Now, they were at least somewhat smart in that they seem to have double layered the manipulation or the lies that the movie was going to go through. So at least I think they were aware of that enough to kind of go, yeah, we have what's going to be I'm going to try to avoid doing spoilers for as long as possible, and then I'll go into spoiler territory if you're wondering why I'm trying to dance around the issue there. But they kind of, I guess they realize that you would need to do more than one reveal, or else the trailer will ruin everything. So hopefully, I guess I'm going to try to catch you on the second trick, like, oh, that's what's going on now. Well, this is even more interesting. Now, the basic plot of the movie is that in the past, like 60 years prior, aliens had arrived on Earth and a war broke out. The aliens destroyed the moon, and apparently by destroying the moon, you turn the entire planet into Iceland. I mean, they try to make up an explanation that was like earthquakes and tidal waves happen, but that does not look like earthquakes caused like this. What happened? If you think too much about the visual look of the destruction, it doesn't make any sense at all. Like that's like how there's mountains built around skyscrapers now. Sometimes. Only certain skyscrapers. Only if you're a landmark. And like the mountains are forming around bridges. Like I'm pretty sure that would all get torn up. It would not look that way. Now the other visual style of like it's very iPod, but I'll get into that in a second. And what you're told is that everyone had, the Earth, basically humans won because after the ground invasion started, like that wiped us out, and then they started a ground invasion, the aliens, and we still had nukes, so we just nuked the planet, like basically a big, fuck you can't have it. And then apparently, because the Earth is irradiated, well, everyone moves out to Io, or Titan, as opposed to Mars, right there, that should have been an issue. And who is left but Tom Cruise and his lovely companion, who are there to fix drones as they try to have these power generation units. The drones are there to defend these power units that suck up water and then transfer it into electricity. I don't think it's the most efficient method of creating electricity, because it kind of is a one-time shot deal. And when they're done, they will go join everyone else. Then weird stuff starts happening. Now, there are still, quote-unquote, alien remnants on the planet. And Jack is starting to have these memories. That's what basically the premise is. It's not too bad of a setup. It's different. It kind of has this very isolated. You get a sense that these two kind of are isolated. Like right from the get, they said it was memory wipes. Like their memory was wiped, and right there you're going, what excuse would they have for that? Like that right off the bat sounds suspicious. I'm like, why? If the only thing on the planet is aliens that seem animalistic, and they're stuck on the planet, and there's like literally only they're scavengers that are all that's left. A couple of alien scavengers. What gleaming secrets are they going to get? The fact that you've gone to everyone to Titan? Well, they don't have ships. They can't get there. Anyway, the visual style is what really sells this movie. It's directed by Joseph Kosinski, and it's actually adapted from a graphic novel he did. Oh, well, yeah. He made this graphic novel, which you could say then this is an adaptation, but he held off on the release, and considering he already has experience in film, I'd say that's more of just a new way to sell it. I would count this as a completely original film, especially when the director is the person that wrote the novel, and the novel was held back. I mean, that's a script then. That's his first draft. It's just he happened to have a first draft that had the storyboards already. So if anyone starts to argue that little semantic, I proverbially slap you for making such nonsense. This is an original film. It's not an adaptation. You really cannot sell me that this is an adaptation. When I believe it's published now. It's now out because of the film. But when a director thinks of a graphic novel and goes, oh, I'm not going to submit this for publication because I think this will turn into a great movie, and instead he submits that to a film studio. No, this is not an adaptation. Somebody tried to argue this to me. Well, I don't know if he argued it to me, but it's original, and that's the most important thing. Because look at science fiction as a genre. It's rehashing the old ideals. It's just sequels. We don't see any big budget, big movies that are original anymore. Like, even when there is something that's not a direct adaptation, it's a sequel to a franchise that had to get built up slowly. Like, I'm looking at... where is it? Alright, it's not exactly science fiction, but since it's right in front of me... Actually, Resident Evil. I was going to say Resident Evil, because it follows what I'm talking about. Where you have a movie that was originally really cheap, it continues to be successful, so it gets thrown more and more of a budget. So that by the time you get to Retribution there, it's got a very, very large budget to do a lot of crazy stuff. But I guess studios are getting stale. I think there's a couple things happening. One, these are not all being successful. I think that's what they got I think they got the message last year when they had several massive failures. Although it takes about 2 years to really see that stuff affect actual film development. I think a lot of studios knew this it was peaking with the remakes. There have been growing complaints, and I think Hollywood itself was just getting very restless with not coming up with new ideals. I think also they were running out of independent properties. The prices on getting an independent property were soaring. So when you have a combination of you're running out of stuff to make, and people are starting to complain about it, you see an opportunity to do a more original film. Hence why we're seeing stuff like Elysium coming out, which looks like another one that's a new, fresh take on a new science fiction one that, as far as I can tell, is not adapted. Of course, I think the fact that this came from a graphic novel also helped it dramatically in the visual department. This is a very visual movie where you have a very primordial looking Earth with these scenes which, if they don't, they can't really exist in real life. They're a big plot hole in of themselves. Like, how does the moon cracking create a mountain like forming around the Empire State Building? Like, not crashing it, but it's forming around it. Like, no. But it looks great. And the other thing is the more futuristic technology is very iPod, so it's very much a real good futuristic look of how tech might look in the future. Like, it looks like something like if Apple could make this stuff work, this is how it would look. And it's evil. So it fits like the real life Apple. In reality, this is a secret message about how Apple's going to control us all. Which, I don't know, maybe that is like the ultimate dark secret of what the writer had intended. Like, Apple has this like weird persona that's kind of like, it's so good and wholesome, and underneath it's built on a pile of lies, because Apple in the end is still a corporation. It's just making you feel like you're part of this independent thing, but in reality you're all the same. We've made you all the same. Actually, now that I literally just thought of that there, and now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, you could really read this movie into being like the most anti-Apple movie ever. Just based on the visual style and like how the tech is working there. Yeah. Even down to like, okay, now I've got to get into a little ahead of where I was gonna go. But alright, the big reveal is, so it's a recommended movie. If you don't want the spoilers, stop now. Great visual style, interesting enough story, and you'll get your money's worth, so go see it. Now to get into spoiler territory. Alright, so the big reveal in this is actually that the first one is they kind of reveal the scavs that are running around on the surface are humans. They're actually the real resistance guys that are still kind of fighting. And though it isn't like flat out stated till later, they basically point out, yeah, and this big giant space station, which they said is like kind of like the control point, is actually the alien spaceship, and they're being manipulated, and that this all gets triggered when a ship crashes onto the planet that's brought down by the scavs, and it turns out you get Jack finds a survivor, and it's what was his wife. You don't find out till later, but it's a human, and then she kind of pieces together herself as she's kind of coming out of it what's going on, and eventually you piece together that not only is there's at first I thought they might have been going down the Elysium route, like they might be going like the people actually up in the space station made up the whole story about. Like, this is, you knew a twist was coming, so I overthought it. I actually thought they were making the space station thing was going to be this. Really, it was a bunch of guys that, like, they fucked up the planet. Like, they did something stupid on the moon and cracked it and it caused all these disasters, and then they kind of they wiped a couple people's memories and send back down to go, like, yeah, this was all aliens. Like, I thought maybe they were going to go for that route. But it didn't. No. It is an alien. It's like an alien robot. But regardless, the second part of the twist, though, comes when they kind of eventually, the scavs kind of capture him, take him in, they reveal who they are. That's where you get the scene in the trailer with Morgan Freeman. They don't go into too much detail about like what the organization they are, how's the resistance. Is this the only cell in the resistance? Or are there others throughout the planet? And what it comes to is that what happened is Tom Cruise's character was an astronaut. He gets sucked into the planet, and apparently because him and this other crew member were the only ones awake, or they ejected the rest of the sleeping crew. and they had these two samples, DNA samples, and so they basically cloned an entire army of Tom Cruise's, and they were the foot soldiers that attacked. It was this entire army of him clones. And so afterwards, they reprogrammed the clones to do this maintenance mission by making up these lies to them. And I don't get with that countdown thing where they say like 2 weeks and you'll be able to leave. I guess every 2 weeks they take every couple of years they take the clones back and like recycle them, rewipe their minds. Because before they kind of make up this thing like there's a radiation barrier, you can't go past it. If you go past it, you'll boil up. And lo and behold, at some point he wants, after talking to Morgan Freeman says, go into one of those other zones. Go into the radiation zone, see what's actually there. And it turns out he sees another clone of himself doing the same job. So they go in. So that's kind of the second layer, is the clones. And how he's just another clone. He just happens to be one that was kind of told, and that has to do with Morgan Freeman's plan to kind of wipe out the aliens, because they want him to sabotage a drone basically to nuke the alien spaceship. And I will say this, the movie did have me on tension, because I thought this might be a really, really, really bitter ending, where, because the title of the film is Oblivion, I was thinking that like they were gonna. I kind of predicted how it was gonna go a little bit, based on the trailer. That eventually, a couple of those drones get to this hidden base that the scavs are in, and wipe out. They kind of wipe out everyone, and then it would be like Cruise and the girl still alive. They like piece together, escape, take their shuttle, and let's kind of like end it for both the aliens and the humans, and everything's completely wiped out. I thought they were going to go that route. They didn't, though. Which I guess, if you want to be more poetic, I think Oblivion, if it ended that way, would have been definitely more artsy. You could have at least gone, it would have had some balls if it did that. Instead, they make it a somewhat bittersweet, but ending. I guess this is already spoiler territory. It didn't make a whole lot of sense, because he switches out, and he's gonna make the thing where he's gonna take her up, because apparently the alien device said, okay, the last command he was given was to take him and the survivor up to the ship. And so he goes, if I seem like I'm complying, it'll work. It'll let me in. And it does for some while. And leading up to that, but they bring another twist. Leading up to that, they have a little conversation, and he's the computer, the ship asks him I'm detecting you're lying. Why are you really doing this? And he kind of says, this is the only way the human race can survive, is by me doing what I'm about to do. Or me doing this is the only way the human race can possibly survive. And the alien machine misinterprets this as into thinking complying with it is the only way that the human race will still struggle and survive for a while, not realizing that he plans on blowing up the ship. So he does it only when he takes out the sleeping pod that he put the girl in. Apparently now it's Morgan Freeman in there. And not only that, but Morgan Freeman had the bomb, and they still have to put a couple of wires together to make it detonate. And it's just making me kind of go there, you ran a big, big risk doing that. What would have happened if it, you weren't the one to open up that crate? There was an actual alien there to grab you or detain you. That whole bomb plot would have foiled. Wouldn't it have been easier to hide it in the cockpit? So you just would have to hit a button and quick detonate it. I know you're trying to get it into the interior core of this ship, It's that's one of those plots. Like that's one of those things. Like, it worked, and but you're kind of going, if this machine was just a little, if there was this one other little tiny detail changed about how the situation went down, your plane would have got everybody killed. That's about it. Performance-wise, you've got Tom Cruise and what's her name? Olga Kernenko. Oh no, that's Julia's character. Who played Victoria? Andrea Riseborough. Like, she did a fine job, having her characters being probably much more of a interesting. How she was more into the system, and she didn't want to break away from the system or want to, one of those people that don't want to face the reality of what's going on. Meanwhile, you had, oh, by the way, there was a Zoe Bell cameo in there. She was there. Although my favorite part is you had Morgan Freeman. He seemed kind of wasted. He was just there to be Morgan Freeman. But I did like how they had Jamie Lannister in there. What I mean, Nikolai, I can never pronounce his Danish name here. Koster Walladow, who plays Sykes. Yeah, the most generic military name you can give anybody. He's there, and he actually survives to the end. Yay! I'm glad to actually see he's now in like another major motion picture. I'm hoping that he starts seeing him in more major movies. Yeah, now he's kind of made himself a name for himself in the U.S. thanks to Game of Thrones, and now we're seeing him in this as like really one of only like 5 actual speaking parts maybe in the entire movie. But anyway, what I said earlier, since I kind of now talked about the reveal, there's a great visuals going on in the movie, and one of them is there's a wonderful little, I noticed, I guess I don't know if you would call it progression or digression, but the more Jack, Tom Cruise's character, gets into peeling back the layers of artificiality to this whole setup, peeling back the layers of lies, as he's going through this whole adventure, his suit, which starts off as like pure white, by the end is almost very black. The outfit, he gets this white, it gets dirtier and dirtier and dirtier, and he becomes more and more like the scavs, like the real humans who are they all wear and dress in black. And they come up with an excuse for that. They say it's like made of stealth material, so that the drones can't scan them when they're running around. But that it works as a nice little visual cue. Again, it shows the importance of visuals in this movie. This is a heavy visual movie, beautifully shot. And if I said if you're offended, if you're an Apple fanboy, I apologize, but the analogy is coming to me right now, and I want to capitalize on it. If you really look at the movie sets up with this very iPod-looking reality that you're doing this good job, you're an effective team type of setup, very kind of corporate, but makes everyone feel good about themselves. And then the lies start coming through, and you can interpret that as, and then everything gets dirtier, more black. Like what, if you look at it, iPod stuff is always very, very white, bright, and most of its competitors are all very black in color. So you can interpret that as, really this cult of personality that Apple has is really, in the end, it's just a corporation. So all this kind of stuff it throws at is lies. Apple has done that in its advertising. It's kind of made it's helped perpetuate the myth that apples don't get viruses, which they do. But it really had gone a long way to actually help perpetuate that myth. So there's a lie right there. How's our technology? It's better than their competitors, when in reality competitors are normally just as good and also cheaper. So maybe peeling back the lies that some companies have. I'm probably overreading that, But I just came up with that one on the fly, so I'm going with it. Let's see. Anything else about the movie? Performances, like I said, they were likable. I didn't have a problem. It's a PG-13. I don't think this needed to be an R. You really, looking at it, doesn't look like it's a movie that was cut down to an R or cut down to a PG-13. It feels very natural the way it is. So I would recommend this. It's a good. Give it a shot. Let Hollywood know that original science fiction is likable. It's worthy of it, and you shouldn't be afraid of it just because you don't know what it's going to be about. Although, like I said, the trailers I think ruined it because the trailers made you look for the coming lies. Oh, everyone knew that these scabs they were people. Although I do want to have, early on when they first show them, they're running around like they're dogs, like very alien-like. They don't ever explain that. Like if they're people, why aren't they running? I guarantee you somewhere they're supposed to be like these suits also have an exoskeleton that lets them travel really fast. If that's in there, it must have been in a scene that they cut for pacing or something, because they move around like they're animals at first. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I recommend it. Go see it. Signing off, and I'll be catching you guys. Let's see what's coming up. I know we've got it's almost May. It's almost the real official start for the holiday movie season. So let's see what's coming up on the release dates. For April, the 26th should be our next big one. And let's see, Pain and Gain, which it's a Michael Bay film, so I'm not that excited about seeing another Michael Bay film. I guess we got nothing really then until May 2nd with the release of Iron Man 3. And then after that we're gonna get let's see here. The Great Gatsby, Star Trek, Epic, which looks interesting, Fast and Furious 6, After Earth, which is the one you gotta compare to this movie, which I'll get into more of that. That'll probably be my review, is just the amount of movies that are like other movies that came out this year. It's really weird how that's going, what's going on with that. And at this point I'm kind of rambling on. I want to keep this under a half hour. So that's my opinion. If you liked the review, please subscribe, like, share, all that fun stuff. Now, signing off for now, guys. See you when I see you.